Vital knowledge, clear explanations, and simplified answers about the rules of Islam to enable English-speaking Muslims to understand Islam properly and implement it correctly. Join Sheikh Assim Al-Hakeem on Ask Zed, coming live to you on Zed TV at the following times. Our media partner, Huda TV.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad, coming to you live from Zad Studios here in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. As usual, inshallah, you'll find the phone numbers displayed at the bottom of the screen. If you have any question, feel free to call. Meanwhile, Bilal says, it is sunnah to raise hands when one is getting up for the third rak'ah, right? Is this right? But when one should raise his hands if he joins the imam in the second rak'ah, do I raise my hands when I complete my two rak'ahs or when the imam gets up from his third rak'ah? Bilal's question is about raising the hands. And we know that the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, according to the hadith of Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, the brother-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ, the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and the brother of Hafsa, the mother of the believers, and the close companion of the Prophet ﷺ, he described the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ and when to raise the hands. And he told us in an authentic hadith, it's in Bukhari and elsewhere, which gives it the highest grade of authenticity. He told us that the Prophet ﷺ used to raise his hands in 4 positions. 2 of them happens only once in the prayer. And 2, the remaining 3rd and 4th place, happens in every single rak'ah. So the place of the takbir or raising the hands that happens only once in the inauguration takbir, the very first takbir you say, which allows you to enter into the salat, known as takbiratul ihram. The takbir itself is a pillar. To say Allahu Akbar is a pillar. Raising the hand here is a sunnah. So even if I wanted to pray Maghrib and I said Allahu Akbar, my prayer is valid. If I did this without saying anything, there is no prayer at all. I have to say Allahu Akbar. So the first position, 1, in the beginning of the salat. Second position is when I go to ruku', I say Allahu Akbar. Every single rak'ah, when I go to ruku', to bow, I raise my hands. The third position, which happens every rak'ah, is when I raise my head from the ruku' and say Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, I raise my hands once. The fourth position, which happens once as well, is when I finish the first tashahhud. So I finished 2 units, 2 rak'ahs, and I'm in the first tashahhud. If I want to stand up to the third rak'ah, whether I'm praying Maghrib, Dhuhr, Asr, or Isha, because they have more than 2 rak'ahs. In Fajr, of course, I don't do this because I conclude my prayer with salam. If I want to stand up for the third rak'ah, the sunnah is, as I'm standing, I say Allahu Akbar. I hope this is understood and it's clear. It's not that difficult. Now, what is Bilal's question? Bilal's question is, if I as a follower, missed one rak'ah with the imam. So I joined my imam in his second rak'ah, while it is my first. I prayed it with the imam, sat for tashahhud, and the imam stood up for his third rak'ah, which is my second rak'ah. So now I'm in a dilemma. Should I, after concluding my tashahhud with the imam, when he stood for his third rak'ah, should I, although I'm standing for my second rak'ah, raise my hands in takbir or not? The answer is yes, you should raise your hand in takbir. Because this is the position for raising the hand, which is once you conclude your first tashahhud and stand for the third. He says, yes, Sheikh, but this is not my third. This is the imam's third. This is my second. We say, yes, you raise your hand because your imam's sunnah is to raise his hand. This is a position for him to raise his hands, and hence you should have raised your hand as well. As when it is your third rak'ah, which is the imam's fourth, no, you do not raise your hand, definitely, because you did not precede it with a tashahhud. So I hope this answers your question and clarifies your doubt. Amna says, when should the person who's given qurbani mention his name and the name he wants to include in his sacrifice? Is it at the time of buying the animal or when actually slaughtering it? Okay, first of all, let's do some translation. What's the meaning of qurbani? Qurbani is the Urdu way of saying udhiyah. The Muslims, the Arabs, consider it as udhiyah because this is how it is described in the Sunnah and in the books of fiqh. Qurban is a sacrifice. It's an originally Arabic word, but qurbani has nothing to do with the Arabic. So, but it's used in the subcontinent, and we explain it just for the people to know. So Amna's question is, this sacrifice for people who are not going to Hajj. So the Muslims are divided into two types: pilgrims who are going for Hajj and non-pilgrims who are the vast majority of the Muslims. Those non-pilgrims, it is highly recommended, sunnah mu'akkada, for them to sacrifice and to slaughter a udhiyah, a ram, or 1/7 of a cow, or 1/7 of a camel. So 7 can share in a cow, 7 people can share in a camel, and 1 person can sacrifice 1 sheep, 1 goat, 1 ram. Amina's asking about this ram I'm going to sacrifice. Is it permissible for me to include others in it? The answer is yes, providing those others are among the living who live under your roof. So if I have a big family and I have my children and I have my grandchildren, they all live under my roof, they all eat from the kitchen in the house, which I provide them food, or they may contribute, but it's the same kitchen that cooks the food for all. In this case, 1 sacrifice, 1 sheep, or 1/7 of a cow, or 1/7 of a camel, suffices for the whole entire family who live under my roof. As for the dead, I also am entitled to include the dead. So I include in my same ram the living under my roof and those who have died, such as my father, my mother, my grandparents, my uncle, my cousins. Now, when do I have such an intention? Is it when I buy the ram from the souk, from the market, or when the actual slaughtering is done? The answer is when the actual slaughtering is done. However, do I have to say it? So before slaughtering or before the butcher starts to slaughter, I say, listen, this is on behalf, and I get my list on behalf of so and so and so and so and so and so. Do I have to do this? No. Is it a sunnah? Some scholars say yes, because the Prophet used to say, this is on behalf of my family and the ummah of Muhammad. So uttering it is just a sunnah. It has nothing to do with the validity of your sacrifice. It has nothing to do with your intention. So what counts is my intention. So if I just go to the butcher and I say, listen, this is my sacrifice, slaughter it for me. And I don't tell him on who is it. This is sufficient. I don't tell him on who it is. This is sufficient. All what I need to know is that I personally know who is it intended for. And this would suffice, inshallah. I'd like to add, if I may, there are no callers, so I can afford that. A lot of the brothers and sisters in the subcontinent take it religiously upon themselves that slaughtering a qurbani or the udhiyah is mandatory upon each individual. So you see a household with 10 people living under the same roof, under their father's roof, and they insist on slaughtering 10 sheep every single year. And this adds a lot of burden upon them financially. And it is not part of the sunnah. The sunnah is to slaughter one. This is sufficient and does the job. Now, if you're a millionaire or if you are well off and you'd like to slaughter more, this is okay. No problem, but to believe that it is an obligation upon Aisha and Fatima and Khadija and Asma and about Muhammad and Abdullah, all the offsprings and the siblings living in the same house. No, this is not mandatory, and there is no such thing as a sin if none of them slaughters except the father of the house. There is no sin at all. There is not even going against the sunnah. It's totally legit. So people could utilize the money elsewhere. Umar says, is there a sound hadith that every Muslim should make different location of sujood as it will testify on the day of judgment? Umar, there is a hadith narrated by Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, regarding Jum'ah prayer. And there's another hadith in Sunan ibn Majah that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, is it difficult for you after you finish prayer to move a step forward or backwards, or to move to your right or to your left before praying? And in the hadith of Muawiyah, he said that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us from praying after Friday prayer until we speak or move out. So these two hadiths indicate that the sunnah after you pray the fard, if you concluded your fard prayer in the masjid, that you move away from the location you had prayed your prayer in, or if there's someone else to speak with and you spoke or talked to, this is sufficient. Justification. We don't have a hadith, as you've requested, a sound hadith that justifies this. Scholars have come up with different opinions. Ijtihad. Some of them said that because when you move away, this means that the spot you prayed in, which is different than the spot you prayed the fard in, will both testify for you on the day of judgment. But there is again no hadith backing this up, because someone would probably reject this and say, what's the problem when the same spot I prayed fard in would testify for me twice, for praying the fard and for praying the sunnah? So the justification given is not that authentic, and hence one should not rely on it. Then what is the reason? The reason is that we have to comply with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He told us to change. Or if someone is next to me and I say, Assalamu alaikum akhi, what is the time? He tells me what is that. Khalas, I can pray in the same spot because I broke the curfew either by speaking or by shifting. And the best of shifting would be to go back to your home and pray the sunnah there. The Prophet ﷺ highly recommended that we pray everything in the house, not in the masjid. The masjid is only for the fard prayers, and the best of prayers are done in your home. So this is the best way of shifting. The $1 million question: are women also requested to change their location? The answer is yes, because the instruction is general. So if a woman prays her fard in her bedroom, then she wants to pray sunnah, she should move a little bit to the right or left, front or back to change the position. Allah knows best. Abu Yusuf from Saudi.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كيف حالك شيخ؟
يا حياك الله.
الحمد لله السلامة شيخ.
بارك الله فيك. حياك الله أخي.
Sheikh, in Masjid al-Nabawi, there is a place called Riyadul Jannah, and there is a musalla of Rasulullah ﷺ where he used to pray. This Riyadul Jannah, they say this is a piece of land brought from the Jannah. So is it correct? We have to pray there too in the field?
Okay.
And the musalla of Rasulullah ﷺ also, people too much crowded, pushing this thing, that thing, all thing going on.
Okay.
Yeah. The second question is, what is the exact method of performing a nikah? The qadi, is it necessary to be bride in front of the qadi and the bridegroom, both the couple should be in front of them, so that the qadi will ask, have you,
Okay.
the bridegroom has paid you the mahar and all that? Is it necessary? Because I came to know recently, one couple got married. One person got married, he performed the nikah in the masjid, and the girl was at home. She don't know what's going on. So then the qadi asked who are the wakils of the girl. The witnesses were there. In fact, she was an orphan. Her elder brother was there, so he should be the wakil. But instead of that, there's some relatives, elderly people, two wakils, and they called the girl. Do you agree? Do you accept this marriage and all that? No mere questions, anything were asked. Has this marriage has been solemnized or not? The third question, 5 minutes before the Salat the Akham al-Salah of ayy obligatory prayer, especially Friday, something like that. So people are used to go 2 hours before the actual Jama'ah of the Friday. So when the call of nature has come, do we have to control and then finish the prayers and all this thing, and then go back? Back to offer the sunnah later on.
Okay.
These are the questions.
I will answer, inshallah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Barakallah fiqh. Okay, Abu Yusuf had 3 questions, and the first question is regarding a spot in the Grand Masjid of Medina, the Masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, and it's called Riyadul Jannah. The area itself has a different type and color of carpet, and people stay there and they fight over praying in that area. So his question is, what is the origin of this? And is it actually a piece of land from Jannah descended on the earth or not? No. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, ما بين بيتي ومنبري روضة من رياض الجنة. What the distance between my home, and my pulpit is an area or a garden of Jannah. And this is not taken as the Jannah of the seventh heaven, but rather that it would lead you. If you sit there and you learn the knowledge and you worship Allah, it's in the first row, it would lead you to Jannah. Now, we find that it is not in the first row of the masjid. It is way back, maybe fifth or sixth row. So is it best to pray there or to pray in the first row? Definitely it is better to pray in the first row behind the imam. And people fighting there are wrong indeed. Asif from India.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam to Allah.
Yes, Sheikh, how are you?
I'm fine, Asif Bhai. What can I do for you?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, sir. Actually, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
In fact, I have been working in Saudi Arabia since last so many years. And in my hometown, I visit once a year for 2 months or for 1.5 months. And I have seen lots of progress, mashallah, in my family regarding prayer and all. But a really big problem that I find over here is that the cultural problems are increasing. I want to stay celebrating birthdays and New Year's and all. So what is the best way to give dawah in a decent way that they will not feel bad and they will know the severeness that these are not the way of us to follow?
So your question basically is that there are a lot of innovation, a lot of bid'ah, a lot of deviant sects in your relatives in your hometown, and you're asking about the best way to give da'wah.
No, regarding prayers and all, mashallah, everything is very well. But regarding social things like celebrating birthdays and celebrating New Year's, these are not part of religion and there's no problem in doing these things. So how to convince them in a different way that this is not our way?
Birthdays and what?
Birthdays and New Year's celebrations.
New Year. Okay.
Yeah.
I will answer you, inshallah. Barakallah feek. Hayyak Allah. Okay. Second question of Abu Yusuf is that what's the proper way of making or conducting a nikah? His reason of question is that there was a sister staying home, and in the masjid, the qadi, the ma'dhoon, whoever, asked about the guardian, and her elder brother, who is the guardian, deputized 2 of the elders, like uncles or so on. And they conducted a phone call to his sister, asking her if she agrees, and she agreed apparently. And the mahar was not disclosed, and the marriage took place. Is the marriage valid? Yes. See, the marriage, to be valid, there has to be the presence and consent of the guardian, who is usually the father. If the father is dead, then the brother, the eldest brother. The consent of the girl, the presence of the groom and his acceptance, and 2 Muslim witnesses. Is there any need for a qazi or for a ma'dhoon or for someone of an official position? No. If I want to get my daughter married, I would say to the man, I give you my daughter in marriage. This is known as ijab, the proposal. And if he says, I accept her marriage, this is qabul, acceptance. In the presence of 2 other Muslims, male Muslims, khalas, the marriage officially is conducted. But we always state that you have to have it in writing, in a contract, to save the girl's rights, so that the man, if he doesn't fear Allah, he does not just hit and run. No, there are witnesses, there is a contract written officially. She can go and claim in the court through the legal system, etc., and demand her rights. Not naming the mahar, this is also acceptable. But now, it is not up to me and her to decide afterwards, though the marriage is conducted, that, okay, let's bargain. I say 10, she says 50. She says 20, she says 40. No, there's no bargaining. How to know what the mahar is? The officials ask in her community, usually a girl of her age, 18, 20, 25 years of age, how much is she entitled for as mahar in the community? And they would say, wallah, she's entitled for 20,000, 30,000, done, deal. He has to pay this amount, and there's no problem in that, inshallah. I hope this answers your question, as Abu Yusuf. We have a short break, stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort, whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life. Allah will undoubtedly test him to see if his faith, trust and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested until he meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Brother Abu Yusuf had a third question, and his question basically was about if there is about 5 minutes for iqamah. The congregation would be called after 5 minutes, and I feel the urge to answer the call of nature. Should I go and answer the call of nature, or suppress it and pray? There is the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said that there is no salat when a person is suppressing the need to go and answer the call of nature, or in the presence of food. There is no salat, scholars said that this means that there is no salat perfect, not that there is no salat valid. The salah is valid. If the food is served and you go and pray while thinking of the food and you're hungry, you are sinful for going against the sunnah, but your prayer is valid. Likewise, if you want to answer the call of nature and you have the urge to do so, yet you still go and pray, you have gone against the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ, but the prayer is valid. So it is up to you, Brother Abu Yusuf, if it's 5 minutes before iqamah and you don't feel the real urge. See, the hadith is yudafi'u al-akhbathain. He is fighting. Someone who is really suppressing it. Not having just, if I go to the bathroom, but I think I can wait for a couple more hours. This guy is not suppressing it. This is normal. But if someone says, I think I can hold it for about 7 minutes or 10 minutes. And during the prayer, he is just moving around and jumping and up and down just to get the feeling away from him. No, this is definitely not the right thing to do. You have to go and relieve yourself and perform wudu. If you come before the iqamah, you pray the sunnah. If not, you can make it up afterwards, and I hope this answers your question. Asif's question was that he went back to his hometown And he is saying that the issue of giving da'wah to the people. Now, how is that to be done? The issues you're asking about, unfortunately, are prevailing nowadays among the Muslims. Celebrating birthdays. This is, in the vast majority of Muslims who are not practicing, is a normal thing. They tell you that this is not part of their religion, and there's nothing wrong in it. We say it is not part of their religion, but it is part of their customs. So you are imitating the disbelievers. Something the Prophet did not do, alayhi salatu wasalam, or his companions, or the tabi'een, or the tabi'at tabi'een. Picking it up and adopting it is inappropriate for a Muslim. It's sinful. The Prophet said, in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with the man, with his father, وَمَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ, and whoever imitates a people, he is from among them. So imitating the people in what it is only theirs. When I travel, I wear a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. Am I imitating the kuffar? No, the vast majority of Muslims wear it. If I'm invited into an official occasion, I wear a suit. But if I were to put a Texan hat, this is worn only by the kuffar. This is not permissible. If a woman wears a kimono, I think it's called, I don't know. The Japanese women dress, which is make them very tight and walk like inches every step of the way. This is imitating the disbelievers. This is not our customs. We are not allowed to imitate them. We have our own traditions and dignity and dress code, and we're identified by it. So this is totally different. Celebrating birthdays, and even worse, Christmas. Christmas is something religious. New Year's is not religious. It's according to their customs and imitating the disbelievers in it. These things are unfortunately prevailing among the ignorant, among the Muslims. How to give them da'wah? You have to look at the bigger picture, akhi. Don't focus on the small things, because it will be an issue of debate, on and off, on and off. But give them da'wah in the bigger picture. And that is by having them love to follow the Quran and to follow the Sunnah, to appreciate the dignity and the honor they have in abiding by the Sunnah, to appreciate the pride of Islam by not imitating the disbelievers. Generally speaking, once you build this up, once you build the love of the Sunnah in every single thing in their lives, it would be easy for you, inshallah, to redirect them and tell them that we have to leave this for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. See, I always give the same example, and it's a beautiful example, and this is why I always repeat it. Life, our lives, is a big picture. Islam is a frame. In Islam, we're told to put this frame and cut all the loose edges from the sides of our lives. So we have to cut all our desires, or our wishes and habits and customs and hobbies that go out of the frame of Islam. Once we do this, Islam fits like a glove over our lives, and we are properly considered to be proper practicing pious Muslims. If you fail to do this, you're not a proper Muslim, you're not a practicing Muslim, because the people now say, oh, I cannot give up this hobby, I love this wish that I have, these desires, these habits. So they start to break the edges of the frame and bring duct tape and bring extensions of wood and use nail and hammers to reform this frame. Eventually you will have a distorted frame that fits your life, but this is not Islam. It's a new thing. It is not the frame of Islam that fits your life, and I hope this answers your question. Saeed from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
I have a question regarding Salatul Safar.
Okay.
I usually travel around 150 kilometers every week. So
Per week or
when
per
I
day?
reach there, every week in a day, 1 day in a week, I mean.
Okay, 150 kilometers.
Yes, so I pray my Zuhr and Asr together when I reach my destination.
Okay.
But sometimes when I come back to my home area, the Asr time is still valid.
Okay.
So do I have to pray again the Asr, or it's already covered with when I pray my...
Okay. Any more questions, Saeed?
the best.
Okay.
That's all.
Barakallah fiqh. Brother Saeed's question about combining and shortening prayer due to traveling. First of all, the scholars have differed whether if you go and come back on the same day, is this considered to be traveling that allows you to shorten and combine or not? Some say that this is not traveling because you commute, you go and come back on the same day. So there is no hardship and there is no need for traveling, and no one would consider you to be traveling. Other scholars said no, it was not specified that you have to stay overnight in the hadith in order for you to shorten your prayer. If you go and travel a distance that is considered to be a traveling distance, you can combine and short, providing that it is a distance of traveling according to the community. Jeddah, Mecca is about 85 kilometers. So both ways is about 170 kilometers. People of Jeddah, when they travel to Mecca, they don't consider themselves traveling. So they never shorten and they never combine. People of Mecca, a lot of them work in Jeddah. So they commute in the morning and come back in the afternoon, never ever to combine or to shorten prayer. But if someone is going from here, for example, to Rabigh, or from here, from Jeddah to Taif, then this is a traveling distance and one may shorten and combine. Now, Saeed's question was that if I traveled in the Fajr time and it's Dhuhr time in my traveling destination, so I finished work, I went to pray Dhuhr 2 rak'ahs, and then I combined Asr 2 rak'ahs. And I left work at 3 o'clock, reached, for example, my hometown, and it is still Asr time. Maybe it is still being called for Asr, and I can pray in the Jama'ah, with the Jama'ah in the congregation, the masjid. What to do? Akhi, you do not repeat your Asr. Khalas, you prayed it when you were traveling, and even if you came before Asr Adhan, you've already prayed your Asr, and you do not have to pray it again, and you must not pray it again. However, if you know for certain that you will be home before the Adhan of Asr or before the Salat of Asr is going to be prayed, it is best for you to pray it with the congregation, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Abdul Aziz says, we have started Dhul Qa'dah, about this month of the Islamic calendar. The 11th month is called Dhul Qa'dah. He says this month includes respected months, Ashhurul Hurum. So whatever good deeds are made in this month, it gets doubled. Similar to how bad deeds get doubled. Am I right? Okay, first of all, let's do some defining. What is meant by Al-Ashhurul Hurum? Al-Ashhurul Hurum are the sacred months. In Islam, we have 4 sacred months. These months, beginning from the first month of the lunar or Islamic calendar, Shahrullah al-Muharram, Muharram, number 1. Then number 7, Shahr, the month of Rajab. Then number 11 and 12, Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah. These are the 4 sacred months. Are they mentioned in the Quran? The answer is yes. Allah Azza wa Jal says in chapter 9, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 36, indeed, the number of months with Allah is 12 lunar months in the register of Allah from the day He created the heavens and the earth. Of these, 4 are sacred. That is the correct religion. So do not wrong yourselves during them. To the rest of the ayah. So, in short, this is the ayah 36 that Allah mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah. It stated that when Allah created the heavens and the earth, since day one, Allah created it to follow 12 months. And these are the 12 lunar months. Among them, there are 4 sacred months, which I have just stated and mentioned for you. Now, the question of Abdul Aziz is that are these sacred months, the good deeds are doubled and the bad deeds, the sins are also doubled? The doubling process is not there. Then why are they sacred? The size of the sin is greater than the size outside of it. For example, if you sin in London, differently than if you do the same sin in Mecca. Allah says, وَمَا يُرِدْ فِيهِ بِإِلْحَادٍ بِظُلْمٍ نُذِقْهُ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Whoever intends something that is wrong, that is sinful in Mecca, Allah Azza wa Jal will make him taste the painful torment. So when Allah prohibits something, if you do it in a place or in a time that is not sacred, definitely is worse when you do it in a sacred time or a sacred place. So if you sin in the month of Rabi' al-Awwal, in the month of Safar, the sin in the month of Dhul Qa'dah, which we are in, is greater, not doubled. It's one sin, but it is greater. When my friend says to me, you're out of your mind. So I can take this. He's my friend. But when my son says to me, Father, you're out of your mind, it's the same phrase, but with greater impact. So this is different. The doubling of sins and good deeds is not there, but definitely the size is different. And this is why scholars, for example, used to love to perform Umrah in the month of Dhul Qa'dah. Why? It's like any other Umrah. They said no, as Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, said that the Prophet performed all his Umrahs in Dhul Qa'dah. And a lot of the scholars like to perform Umrah in the beginning of the month. In the month of Rajab, some scholars used to love and recommend fasting it, though there is no authentic hadith. But they depend on the fact that this is one of the sacred months. Of course, we know that Muharram, which is the first lunar month of the Islamic calendar, that the Prophet ﷺ highly recommended fasting it, even fasting it, all of it. Because this is the best fasting after the month of Ramadan. So from these sayings and hadiths and evidences, scholars came up with the conclusion that the sins are heavier and more serious in the sacred months than the other 8 months, and the good deeds are more valued and rewarded than in the other months, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Shabazz says, I've heard from India saying that showing off salat, fasting, charity are shirk, and showing off clothes, etc. are shirk as well. I want to know, is showing off clothes, gadgets, watches, etc. considered to be shirk? The answer is no. If I show off with my car, wearing branded labels, if I show off with my new phone, or with my watch, or with my LCD screen or computers, this is not shirk. This might be pride, this might be arrogance, this might be showing off, but it is not definitely shirk. Shirk has to be involved with a form of worship. So if I pray and pretend to be praying in a short fashion so that people would admire my prayer, this is minor shirk. And it's called riya, showing off. This is haram. This is a major sin. If I don't want to give money to the poor, but then I notice that there is a CEO of a company who is dining on the other table, so I flash a note bill and show everyone that I'm giving this poor person. This is showing off. This is charity. So it's a form of worship. Unlike when I come to showing off with my car, with my gadgets, etc. These are normal things, but they're not recommended nor something that people should do. A brother says, my parents allow my sisters to travel alone and also allow them to take part in mixed gatherings. I tried to make them understand the seriousness of this matter, but they take it very lightly. I work in another state, so can I stop talking to them and stop talking to my parents just to make them realize? First of all, this needs a lecture by itself. What is the ruling on abandoning and boycotting a Muslim for the sake of his sin? This was done by the Prophet ﷺ, who is the Prophet, and ordered the rest of the people of Medina to do the same, when 3 of his companions did not go with him to the Battle of Tabuk on the 9th year of Hijrah without any justification or a legitimate reason. And they boycotted them for 50 days until Allah revealed their innocence and accepted their repentance in chapter 9 of Surah At-Tawbah. Also, we have other narrations to prove that the Prophet ﷺ used to boycott any of his household whenever they would lie. So if he heard a lie from them, he would boycott them until they repent and show remorse. However, in your case, my friend, definitely goes without questioning that boycotting or abandoning your parents is out of the question. It's totally haram. It's a major sin. You are not even allowed to be disrespectful or to raise your voice against them, let alone boycott them. Your sisters follow their father, and it's his responsibility to give them the green light. And he's the one who's going to be held accountable on the Day of Judgment, and not you. Now, you living in another state, how would your sisters perceive you? Oh, my nagging brother, my police brother. Every time he talks to us, don't do this, don't do that. You have to cover up. You have to not attend mixed places. And this is all what we hear from him. They would never accept your da'wah. They would never take you seriously. So what to do, Sheikh? Forget it? No. Focus on the positive side. Encourage them, give them a sweet talk, talk about normal things that they're interested in. And once you are certain that they love you, they respect you, they believe that you want the best for them, maybe then you can talk to them and logic with them and strengthen their iman. But to monitor them and to police them over these issues, though they are serious issues, but it's not your call. It's your father's call. He is their guardian, and he will be held accountable on the Day of Judgment, and he might also be thrown into hell because of his irresponsible behavior with them. This is how I see it, and Allah knows best. Azim says, the nikah of my cousin's brother was supposed to be held in the month of July, but suddenly his father died. Can he get married within 1.5 months of his father's death while his mother is still in her iddah, or should they wait for a certain period? First of all, this is up to you, my friend, or to your cousin. We are not allowed to mourn our dead for more than 3 days. So my father dies, I'm allowed to mourn him, to feel sad, to refuse to wear perfume as a man. I'm depressed only for 3 days, and that's it. After that, everything has to go normal. I feel sad, yes, but nothing shows. Except for a widow who has to wait for 4 months and 10 days. Now, if the marriage is planned a month and a half after the death of my deceased, it was planned earlier, but my father died and there is a 45 days gap between his death and the scheduled marriage date. Should I go with the marriage? Generally speaking, yes. There's nothing in Islam that prevents it. Yet your mother must not attend because she has to wait for the iddah. So if she is kind and loving and caring, like most mothers, she would say, my son, go and have your marriage. It was planned, you've paid for the whole, all the expenses have been paid, etc. Everybody is ready. Don't wait for me. I will inshallah have a party later on with you. There is no problem in having this marriage. But if the mother is depressed and the family of the bride are considerate and they appreciate, and they will say, listen, 3 more months, we'll wait. And you have no problem with that. There's no problem in waiting, so it's up to you, akhi. Farmina says, is it better to give money for construction of a place to learn the Quran, or is it better to give it to a person who is in debt and paying interest on it? Any person who takes an interest-based loan, he's committing a major sin and he's committing riba, which Allah curses the people who deal with it. Therefore, there is no reason for them or for us to help them. They opted for this major sin. I would not help him so that he would not be encouraged to take another loan after a year, a third, a fourth, because he knows people will help him. No, go and put it in this school. Petit Matt says, when I repent from a sin, I say something like, I will never do it again, because I read one must resolve to never do the sin again. Is that a promise or an oath? I intentionally don't say I promise or something similar because I'm not sure if I can keep the promise. If I do the sin again, do I break my promise that I had made to Allah Azza wa Jal? The answer is no. This is not a promise. This is not an oath. This is not a vow, because it was neither verbally stated and you did not have the intention in your heart to do it. So if you go back to that sin, you're sinful for that sin, but there is no expiation for that. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have. Until we meet same time next week, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.